everybody. You're listening to Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. It's actually our very first episode. John likes to touch the microphone while I'm doing the intro. So
I now know.
But today we're going to talk about Man of Steel, amongst, I'm sure, many other things. So I'm Justin, and I'm here with John.
Yeah, I'm John Pelzel.
So let's jump right in. John, what did you think of Man of Steel?
Well, I will start with saying that you did not want to see anything about Superman,
I didn't.
the movie, and I started watching stuff before the movie. And
I'll give a little backstory for that. I'm obviously, John knows, I'm a huge Superman fan, have been pretty much my whole life. And so, it's been 7 years since we got the last Superman movie. Superman Returns came out in 2006. 7 years is the exact same span of time between Batman and Robin and Batman Begins. That's how long it's been since we've had a Superman movie. So, I was super excited about it. And I was a little hesitant when I found out Zack Snyder was going to direct it because I was afraid that the whole movie was just going to be slow motion shots.
I was too, yep.
So when that first teaser came out in front of Dark Knight Rises, which really had no Superman footage at all, it had one shot, like one wide shot of him flying, but it had like Smallville footage and it had him on the boat and whatnot. I said, that's all I need to see. And so I told myself, I'm not.
That was the Comic-Con trailer, or?
It was a teaser trailer before Dark Knight Rises, so it came out in July of.
Oh right,
2012.
yeah. Yeah, that was nice.
It had, the only dialogue in it was, there were two different versions. There was one with Kevin Costner voiceover, and there was one with Russell Crowe voiceover. But it was the same footage, just different voiceovers. But I saw that, and I was like, this looks amazing. This is way different than what I was expecting. I have total faith in Zack Snyder now. I was like, I'm thrilled.
Yeah.
So I told myself, and I knew it was going to be tough, that I did not want to see any footage from then until I was sitting in the theater opening night. And I was able to succeed at that. I didn't want to even hear anything, and unfortunately there were a couple times where I was in a theater, like when I went to go see Star Trek, I couldn't get out. There was it was too full, and I didn't want to climb over people over the preview. So I tried to cover my ears, but the theaters are so loud that I couldn't. I heard everything. I was like,
can you imagine what people were thinking if they saw you do that?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, this guy really doesn't like
plugging
Superman.
his ears.
Yeah.
It's not that loud.
So yeah, it was my most anticipated movie of 2013 for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. At the time, before I started seeing more footage, I think I was leaning more towards Star Trek just because I recently became such a huge Star Trek fan.
Mm-hmm.
But as things went on and they released more stuff, I was like, I think Superman's going to take this one. And I still haven't seen Star Trek, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I need to see that ASAP. But anyway, so were you done with your?
That was essentially the backstory for my thing. Did you like it or did you not like it? You haven't really said, so I'm curious.
I loved Man of Steel.
You did? Okay, cool.
Yes. I would say that when I first saw it, like when I came out of the theater, I didn't know if I could say that I liked it better than The Dark Knight.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I could comfortably say that right now. But at the same time, I felt like it was a different movie in a way, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The Dark Knight, this was more going towards the Spider-Man sense of superhero movies, and The Dark Knight's really not in that realm. But anyway, yeah, I love the movie. So
I really enjoyed it too. I thought it was really, really good. One of the things that really surprised me, having not seen any of the trailers, was just how comic booky / sci-fi it was. Like seeing those creatures on Krypton and everything, I was like, wow, they're really going full on comic book here. But at the same time, everything I heard about the movie was like, we're really trying to bring it into like we're taking like a realistic approach to this movie, which it does have that. I mean, it's very much an alien invasion movie too. It's like, how would the real world react to an alien in our midst? So, the movie has flaws, which we'll get into. there's some problems I have, but overall I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I still think The Dark Knight's better. Dark Knight, I think, is probably still the best, maybe, comic book movie out there. But I love Man of Steel. It's really hard for me to compare it to the other Superman movies because it's so different.
Oh, you can't. Yeah, you can't.
And I'm really glad that they did that. Like, I remember I read one review where somebody said that they were disappointed that Michael Shannon didn't say Neil before Zod. And I'm glad they didn't do that because this is a totally different thing. And if they did that, it would have been a little wink, a little nod to the other movies.
I'm going to jump right into this. And I'm going to say spoiler alert just because I
guess we should have said that in the beginning. This whole podcast we're going to talk about this whole movie. So this is going to be all spoiler. If you haven't seen Man of Steel, don't listen to this. Listen to it later.
The end where he breaks Zod's neck was amazing.
And that's caused a lot of controversy.
Of course. That's why I brought it up. And here's why I thought it was amazing. Was because, I mean, you were not expecting that.
No, absolutely not.
Superman breaking a guy's neck in his first movie, mind you.
Right.
You're just learning about this guy. But people go into the movie feeling like we know him. This is a little bit different Superman than we've had. But at the same time, I don't think they're breaking any rules because Superman never killed anyone. But, I mean, did he? I mean, he's killed people in the past, hasn't he?
He has. I read an article the other day. I mean, number one, the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about Superman killing someone is Doomsday. He killed Doomsday, and Doomsday killed him. They killed each other. But, I mean, Doomsday and Superman beat each other to death.
But Doomsday isn't so much of a humanoid, like Zod. Zod, it was basically like killing a man.
Right. There's actually...
To a lot of the audience.
Sure. There's actually other comics. It doesn't happen often, obviously, but apparently in the comics that I'm more familiar with, which were kind of just a reboot of Superman back in the 80s, that Superman kills Zod with kryptonite. Like, he opens a box that has kryptonite in it, and he kills Zod slowly with kryptonite. Like, it's brutal, apparently. So it's not unheard of that Superman has killed people.
Sure. And of course, this one's, brute force with his hands. The point was the shock.
Right.
And I thought that's what was so brilliant about it, was he had to make a decision in a split second. He did not want to kill Zod.
No.
And also, that's another thing I wanted to talk about was the choice to not save his dad.
That's one of my favorite scenes in the movie.
Or not kill. I'm sorry, not kill his dad. No, not save. Did I say save or kill?
I think you said save.
Okay.
Not to save his dad.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's because it was a great moment where he's just done arguing. I can't speak English, apparently. He's just finished arguing with his dad about how he's not his real dad and he doesn't have to listen to him. Right?
Yeah, but at the same time, I think you see there's a moment where he kind of goes back on that. He doesn't say anything, but I think he kind of goes back on that.
Yeah, he feels bad about it.
And his dad, I think his dad sees that.
But that's the point, though, is like right after they have that argument, he basically tells his dad by not going to save him, like, I do trust you.
That's true. That is
true. I do think you're,
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a very good point.
So that was like a heartbreaking scene, and Kevin Costner knocked it out of the park. Like, it was just.
Oh my goodness, I miss him so much.
Yeah, I don't know why he gets. This is randomly off topic, but I was watching Family Guy the other day, and there was how Family Guy always has those little cutaway jokes. It showed Brian or somebody coming out of a Kevin Costner movie, and he was like, "How does he keep getting work?" And I was like, "I love Kevin Costner. What is so wrong?"
No, Kevin Costner's awesome.
He makes. I mean,
when he does it right, he does it right. That's
absolutely
for sure.
Yeah. And when I heard that he was cast as Jonathan Kent, I was like, "That's brilliant." I just thought that was perfect. The comics that I grew up on, Jonathan Kent survives, or he's still alive when Clark becomes Superman, and he's even still alive when Clark dies during the Doomsday Battle in the Big Death of Superman comics. Jonathan Kent is still alive, so I was hoping that they would do that in this movie, version.
Right, right.
But with this story, it just works so perfectly that he dies.
Sure, sure. And there's different stories of where he died besides the movie, right?
I'm not as familiar with older Superman comics, especially when it comes to the other characters.
Oh, I need to say this straight up. As far as comic books go, I am not very knowledgeable as far as the comic book story world goes.
Right.
For me, I'm more of just a superhero fan. Now, I do read comics, but I'm very selective, and it's been a while.
Well, same could be said for me. I would like to be a comic book reader, but they're just so expensive.
Yeah.
Or at least, they were. There's ways of like ordering off the internet that makes them cheaper, but I haven't looked into that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm in the same boat with you. I'm a huge superhero fan. I love superhero movies. I love superheroes, but I'm not the most knowledgeable in terms of history and all that stuff. That being said, Jonathan Kent, it seems like in especially most live action adaptations, Jonathan Kent is dead or dies. Like he dies in Smallville. The show.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
He's alive in Lois and Clark, which I know everybody thinks is like, the best Superman show. Not really.
I thought you were serious.
No. I like Lois and Clark, but it's very cheesy and all. But Jonathan Kent was alive in that incarnation.
Okay.
Now let's talk about. Let's start at the beginning and talk about Krypton. What did you think about the whole? It's like 18 minutes long. The opening Krypton sequence.
I'm mixed about that, man.
Okay. Why?
Thanks. No. Basically, I always wanted to see Krypton. I was a fan of Superman Returns as well. Not near to this degree of Man of Steel, but it was one of the lesser superhero movies for me. I really liked it when it first came out, and as time went on, I was kind of like, it didn't really hold up as much as I was hoping it would. I still enjoy it though, but what I was going to say was, I wanted to see, there was apparently a segment that Bryan Singer shot, like, what was it, like 20 or 30 minutes of Krypton that they didn't even use?
I don't know if it was that long. It's actually on YouTube.
Or was it 15 maybe?
They might have shot a lot, and
it was a good chunk, and there was supposed to be like there was a lot of hope that they'd put it on the special edition, but they never did. Anyway, I was really excited to see that, and I always wanted to see a lot more of Krypton and what Krypton was about. I like how I felt like it was a bit confusing.
Uh-huh.
You're thrown into a world that was, about to crumble anyway.
Right.
But you don't know anything about what it was before. So you don't know how far they've really crumbled, how high they were staying, that kind of stuff. Now, you know that they have great technology and stuff, but I felt like you really didn't get a sense of what kind of peril they were in, besides the fact that there were battleships flying around and everything.
Right. And to their credit, they touch on it a little bit later. It's kind of revealed later, like, because I remember the same thing when I first saw it. I was like, "What is it?" He gets the Codex, which is that skull and everything, and you're like, "What is going on? What is he doing with this?" And you find out about that stuff later.
Sure.
But the only thing that I picked up on as to why exactly Krypton is about to blow up is because they have been using the core or whatever of the planet for resources or something, and they've it's become unstable, and they've made some mistakes, or whatever.
And that was obvious. I mean, that was like burning with a we want you to stop using petroleum message. I was fine with it because I agree. I think, but anyway, that's not something to bring up. But anyway, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Well, I'll jump into something. The Krypton stuff is one of the things I always find weird about Krypton, in this movie and in the Christopher Reeve original movie, is that it's a whole planet, yet there's only like a council of 5 people or something that Jor-El is always trying to appeal to.
True.
Granted, we only have Earth to compare it to, but yeah, on Earth it'd be like the UN or something, and it's like thousands of people.
Right.
So that always I think is kind of funny. It's just like these 5 people are the top people of the whole planet or something. Mm-hmm. I don't know, which maybe whatever. But no,
they could have just been the energy people.
That's true. That's true.
Go ahead.
The Krypton sequences, I think, are maybe my least favorite sequences. It sets it up well and everything. But it's, I mean, you couldn't get rid of it. You need it for the movie, but it's almost best that it's at the beginning because it gets it out of the way.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
I really need to take notes because I know there's more I want to say about Krypton, but I can't really think of it at the moment. Yeah. If I think of it, we'll go back to it. We'll just be
that's exactly why we're doing this episode right
First episode, yes. So we'll jump ahead. Actually, before we move on, there's something else I wanted to talk about in Krypton, and I don't know if this happened in earlier incarnations of the comic or not, because, like I said, I'm not as familiar with it, but when Zod kills Jor-El, that was surprising to me. Like, that was a cool little twist on that. Because as far as I know, Jor-El's always just died whenever the planet's died, or the planet gets blown up. So seeing Zod do that, I thought was kind of an interesting little kind of, added piece to his character.
I agree with that. At the same time, and I've only seen it once. I'm hoping to see it here again pretty soon. I liked the concept of that happening. But for some reason, it just felt like maybe it wasn't because I wasn't expecting it, or maybe it just didn't fit with my mind at the time. But I felt like it seemed a little forced, just the way it was done.
Right.
But I did like the idea of that. I just thought of this too. I think maybe if they tried to show that Jor-El and Zod had a past, but I didn't really sense that there was much to that, as much as they were hoping for.
No, I think that's part of it. I mean, earlier I said that Krypton, I think the Krypton scenes were my least favorite, and I think you just hit it on the nose. I think it's because it feels kind of rushed. Everything feels like it has to go very quickly to get it out of the way.
Right.
And you're right. I think that's part of it. Because they hinted at a history between. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that's what I was saying earlier about with the, how you didn't get a sense of how advanced these people were.
Right.
So they tried to give you a history. You had the codex. Was it a codex or a codec?
Codex.
Codex. I'm thinking of Metal Gear Solid, and you had how they were superior and all that stuff. But I think really would have been neat, maybe if they had shown something in the history. You know how you had the where they had those like metallic looking things where the mom, what's her name?
Lara?
Yeah, where she came up and could talk like
through it.
Right. I thought they could have done better with that, but the reason I was bringing that up was to show. Well, you know what? They did have that scene with Zod talking to Kal-El when he was kind of out of it on the spaceship.
Yeah.
But even so, I feel like they just didn't get across, that Rome had fallen.
Right.
And we just kind of saw the rubble.
Right. I get that. Going back real quick on a different but related topic about the robots, like the robot helpers of Jor-El, those Keelix and Keylor. They're in the comic books a lot, and there's also different comic books and different animated movies I've seen. Those robots are in the Fortress of Solitude. And I always thought it made sense because it gives Superman somebody to talk to, and it gives him, help, or whatever. It's almost like their computer system, and he's got it. But I always thought that would never work in the movies. Like, you couldn't have, like, floating, talking robots. It would just be cheesy, but it worked in this. It worked really well. On Krypton, anyway.
Oh, yeah. I liked the robots a lot. Even with, even on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
With,
just like the security, security robot.
And that kind of harkened back, and I listened to a podcast that, Kevin Smith did, and he mentioned the giant tentacle thing, kind of resembling the spider.
Yeah.
And apparently there was a polar bear in the movie, which I don't remember.
There was. Yeah, there is.
In fact, Zack Snyder said that he did that because of John Peters.
That's funny.
And that story, I think. But, anyway.
That is hilarious. I didn't even think about that, but that is really funny. Yeah, it's when Clark finds the ship, which I have some stuff to talk about that ship when we get there, but he finds the ship and he flies it away, and he flies it to, like, a different, I don't know if he flew it to, like, the South Pole, he was in the North Pole or something, I don't know, but he flew it to some other Arctic area. And you see a shot of a polar bear, and then the camera pans up, and you see the ship having now landed in this new spot. And it's right before he talks to, Jor-El shows up, and he talks to him, and Jor-El tells him where he's from, right before, like, the flight scene and everything.
Speaking of which, I really liked how Jor-El was there.
Yeah. Rather than just like an image, like a
correct. Well,
floating head.
Right. I mean, he was physically able to touch him, right? If I'm not mistaken.
He never does. I don't think he ever does.
Okay.
It's almost like Bruce Willis.
Well, you were kind of under the impression that if even so, it was still more personable, you know.
Right. Yeah. I think he is just an image, just like almost like a hologram or whatever.
Right.
Because when he's helping Lois Lane, he gets swiped away.
That is true.
But,
and that seems really cool too.
Oh yeah, I loved it.
He's like, I know this ship because I'm inside of it.
Right.
And I liked the dialogue that he had with Zod, where he's like, I'm not going to argue with a ghost or whatever he said.
Yeah. Like.
So.
So now, jumping ahead, we've left Krypton, and this is one of the things I really liked about the movie. Rather than being linear and showing the spaceship crash, and then you see him being raised by the Kents, and then going to Metropolis or whatever, it jumps right to him being on that boat, kind of being a drifter, if you will, and then a lot of the Smallville stuff is told in flashback. So I actually thought, I've heard, people say it's structurally frustrating, but I thought it worked really well, actually.
I can see how they say that, but looking, when I go through the movie, I think that does work best. I can't really give any examples right now.
Well, I also think when it's told linearly, I also think it's a little bit convenient that we see young Clark and then something happens that he has to save the day, and then we see a little bit older Clark and there's something happens where he has to save the day. So when he's already old, I mean, granted, the first time we see him, something happens and he has to save the day. But then he immediately just kind of thinks about something else that happened before, and then we see that.
Right.
Which is, I think, makes sense.
And I think probably one of the main reasons they chose to do that is because the original movie was linear. And a lot of people, especially with today's audience, would probably had a little bit harder time sitting through that when they came to see Superman.
Yeah. Well, I just showed the original movie to my girlfriend, who she thought it was too long. She thought it took too long to get to Superman, basically.
So yeah. There you go.
Prime example.
Yeah. Did you read the little comic book, you know what I'm talking about?
The prequel? Yeah, I did read it. Did you?
I did. And, I guess we can bring that up because, they don't talk about it in the movie, but it was connected to the movie, and basically it goes over, why the ship was there in the first place. And what I found interesting was, of course, the ending, which was, the Shadow that leaves the ship, or the silhouette, I guess is what it was at the very end.
Oh man, I don't remember the shadow. I remember it says there's like a beacon, and then the last image you see in the prequel comic is the boat.
Right, but right before that, what's Supergirl's name?
No, that's Kara something.
Yeah, Kara. She and some other astronaut dude on the ship get in a fight.
Right, I remember that.
And basically he murdered the entire crew while she was in cryosleep.
Right.
And I guess he wanted to mate with her or something, but he wakes her up, and they get into a battle, and actually you don't know who wins. But someone apparently dies, and there's a picture of a silhouette walking through the snow away from the ship.
Oh, okay.
And one of my friends and I were talking about this, and especially if they're talking about Justice League stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, Kara, from what he told me, was his Superman's cousin.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in this story takes place, was it 10,000 years? Or no, it's 20,000.
It says it's been submerged in ice for 20,000, yeah.
So, this was obviously longer than that, because who knows how long it took to freeze. But, something that we talked about was, this is how you could integrate Wonder Woman into the story, is that this girl, she's the winner of the battle, she goes off and hides and starts the Amazonian woman race. So that would be interesting if Wonder Woman had ties to Krypton.
Oh, yeah.
And that would make sense, too, why she can fly, why she has super strength, and that kind of stuff.
Right.
The point is, though, is that something was supposed to be significant about someone walking out of there.
Sure.
They wouldn't have shown that. So either you have Wonder Woman, or you have mating with humans, and you have half Kryptons on Earth that no one knows about. Or half Kryptonian.
In the movie, when he finds that ship underneath the ice, you see you see the pods, and there's like dead people in the pods. And then you see one pod that's open.
Right.
Which is supposed to be some sort of like Easter egg. I just always assumed, that it was Supergirl. And who knows where she is, or where she's been. Or if she's been around for that long.
Right, I doubt she would be. It's been over 20,000 years. She's probably dead, but I think what they're going for is genetics. There's some kind of there's Kryptonian genes out there somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why they would have had her escape and just she froze to death. Maybe they'll find her body frozen out there in the Arctic somewhere and be able to do something with genetic engineering. But then again, why wouldn't they do that? Well, yeah, that would be it. Superman's not gonna, put himself up for testing, obviously.
Right.
And I think Lex Luthor needs to be in the next movie.
I think he will be. Did you notice there's a lot of LexCorp?
I saw the building in the trailer, which it was not near as noticeable to me in the movie. In fact, I don't even think I could read it.
I'd heard about it, or I'd read about it or something.
Uh-huh.
But I couldn't see it in the movie.
And then the only other one that I remember was the tanker.
Right. And I've seen the movie 4 times now. And so there's actually 4 that I counted sightings of LexCorp.
Mm-hmm.
When Clark goes back to his mom's house after he gets the suit and everything and talks to Jor-El.
I want to keep that thought real quick. Speaking of Clark and Easter eggs, did they ever have? You heard about the one where there was a picture of a guy dressed up like Christopher Reeve in his suit. Did you ever hear about that?
Mm-mm.
All right, we'll talk about that later. Then you talk about what you were talking about, and I'll bring that up later.
I do think there's a Christopher Reeve Easter egg in the movie, and we can get to that because it happens near the end of the movie.
Okay.
But when Clark gets dropped off at his mom's house, right before the Zod's message and everything, the truck that drops him off says LexCorp.
Okay.
And then there's the tanker truck during this big Zod fight at the end. There's the building, which I really only do see in the trailer. I think you can get a quick glimpse of it in the movie, but it's really hard to read. It goes by so fast.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell that it was the building, and
Right.
that it said LexCorp, but I only knew that, I think, because I saw it in the trailer.
Right. And then also during the big Zod fight scene, right before Zod shakes off all of his armor, and then learns to fly, that building has a big LexCorp sign on it as well. Like it said, because it's under construction, and I think it's just a big, property of LexCorp sign or something like that. So there's 4 Lex Luthor references essentially in the movie. So I think they are definitely setting it up. But you know what? I'm really excited about it because in all the movie so far, in all the other movies, the Richard Donner universe, you could say, Lex Luthor has kind of been this. He's real smart, but he's also just kind of this underground, kind of almost goofy, nobody takes him seriously kind of villain. He's got Otis.
Right, and that's Gene Hackman's acting.
Right, and even in Superman Returns, people are talking about Lex Luthor. Everybody knows Lex Luthor's bad, but they're all kind of like, oh, Lex Luthor. Nobody really thinks of him as a big threat, I guess.
Right.
And I'm interested to see how they do it in the new movie because I think in the comics, Lex Luthor becomes president of the United States.
Right.
So I think it'd be really interesting to see Lex Luthor as kind of this big name, almost celebrity-esque businessman, but he's liked by a lot of people. And Superman is one of the only people that knows kind of his true character.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if that's the route they're going to go with it or not, but I think it'll be interesting. I'm really excited to see.
I completely agree with you. I think one of my friends and I were talking about the sequels, or before the movie came out, if Lex Luthor would have a cameo in the movie.
Right. I thought he was going to. Oh,
me too.
I want to go back and talk about on the ship that he finds. Something that I think is funny. I kind of, I guess, forgot about the fact that it was buried in ice for 20,000 years, because I always just assumed that open pod was Supergirl, and Supergirl is out there somewhere. But she would be 20,000 years old, so I'm very curious what they're going to do with that. I don't know if they're going to do. I think the Wonder Woman idea that you had is interesting, but I don't know if they're going to go that route, because that pretty much alters Wonder Woman's history. But here's my big question about the ship. He's talking to Jor-El, and Jor-El is telling him he can be, a hope for people. And then you see those doors open up, and the suit is there, and it's being lit up, and it starts turning. And I'm wondering, has that suit been there for 20,000 years? So my question is that actually Supergirl's costume?
That is something that's come up, and that's actually the answer that I think that's the answer.
It was actually meant for, or at least somebody on that crew. Well, she's the only one that wears that symbol, though, because she's from the House of El.
Right.
So it'd have to be Supergirl's costume.
It'd have to be hers. And the ship was hers, too. Well, no, I guess it was the plant, whoever the government.
She was in command of it. She was the captain of the ship.
But apparently I heard that the suit can shrink or grow according to the body. So, so apparently it would have fit Kara, and it also fits Kal-El.
Huh. Well, that's interesting. How lucky that they found Kara's ship, right?
Yeah, did they ever go into that? I don't
No, it's a little bit of a convenient thing, but unless they're trying to say that Jor-El's the command key somehow manifested that suit. Like it manifests Jor-El on board, he's there talking to Kal-El. Somehow the key also holds the information for that suit.
That's possible too. I mean, we don't know what kind of technology they have, and I'm pretty forgiving for stuff like that.
Yeah, I am too. I like the idea of it being Supergirl's costume, though.
I do too. Well, we're gonna go with that
one. But right after that scene is one of my favorite scenes, where it's essentially Superman learning to fly, which is something that has also kind of changed, because in the history of comics, or at least as far as I know, he always kind of learned how to fly when he was a teenager, when he was 18 or so. Mm-hmm. There's a Superman.
So did you like that or not?
No, I didn't mind it. I thought it was fine.
I thought it was really cool.
Yeah.
I loved when he's like crashed into the side of the mountain. To me, it kind of brought a little bit of the old Spider-Man movie feelings back to where Spider-Man was learning to swing and everything.
Right.
And I felt like it kind of had that feel. So I liked that pretty well.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was fine. I thought and it's a really well done sequence. It's visually very, very well done. Seeing him.
I also heard that
in the music,
and he kind of shows it in his face that him flying was not something that he would enjoy doing, especially learning how to do it. At first, it was apparently it's very straining on Superman to fly. He has to control it. That's why you kind of see him jerking around a lot too. Is because he's kind of having to. It's not easy.
I did not get that from that scene, especially because he kind of, woo-hoos when he finds out that he can do it.
That's true.
But that's something I never really thought of. That's a question that has come up before, where is flying for Superman like running for a human being? Like, will he eventually get tired if he flies long enough? That's something.
And there's sciences behind this apparently that I haven't really gone into or researched, but about how he can fly.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently there's I've heard there's a somewhat scientific explanation that, if you could alter something that it would be possible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that is though. But anyway.
It's funny because my concern about when I first heard Zack Snyder was going to be director and how it was going to be a lot of slow motion, it's almost the opposite problem now. It's not a problem, but it's everything is so, especially when he's flying so fast. It was obviously kind of a choice to make the camera almost not be able to keep up with him, to kind of show like just how fast he is and just how superhuman he is.
Yeah, there's been a lot of complaints about the handheld and how it was the entire movie. I thought it fit very well.
It looks great.
Yeah.
There's just a couple of times, especially during that first flying sequence, where I wish it would just slow down just a little bit so we could enjoy enjoy the first flight with him rather than kind of see him from afar doing it. But that's just a minor complaint. Like I said, it's easily forgivable, and it still gets the point across. Like it's still a really well done scene. Jumping ahead a little bit, what do you think about Lois Lane figuring out that Clark Kent is Superman?
Oh, I love it.
I do too. I think Lois Lane's not an idiot, and so the fact that she finds out who he is before he even dons the costume, or at least in public, I thought was genius.
In fact, talking about that was one of my cringes. Was at the end of the movie, he comes in with the glasses, and I mean, it's not like Superman has not been in the the spotlight. He, it's the 21st century. Everyone has seen this guy up close. And I felt like when he walked in with the sunglasses, it was just too much Henry Cavill, to not know.
I gotcha. Well, I'm curious. That scene made me smile. I love that scene. I don't know why. Just the ending of the movie I thought was just so great. With him putting on the glasses, because you almost don't really see it yet, and then her saying "Welcome to the planet"
right.
and her knowing.
I loved, the elevator when it closes. That was awesome.
But I am curious how in part 2 what they're going to do, because it seemed just from that scene at least that they're not going the nerdy Clark Kent route, like the Christopher Reeve kind of stumbling, because that was really what set up. That's kind of what his disguise was in the previous movies. Was he was really the way he carried himself, the way he spoke. He tried to make himself so forgettable that this guy couldn't possibly be Superman. Right. And in this movie, he comes in, he seems like he's just a regular dude just wearing glasses. So I'm curious how they're going to do it and who all's going to know. Because Perry White's not an idiot either, So.
Right. And now that we're talking about Clark Kent, I've been doing a lot of thinking about that too, and I think I personally would be fine if they just said everyone knows that you're Superman, and you don't have to hide because you have to be Superman all the time, almost kind of thing. I know that there's a lot of love for the Clark Kent character. Right. I like Clark Kent, but I think with this story and I don't know. What you want the Clark Kent story, do you not?
I do. I don't know how I'd feel about. I mean, it would be such a drastic change. I don't know how I'd feel about it. I know. I mean, I can admit that the glasses thing is not the greatest disguise, but it's almost like you can't have Superman without glasses Clark Kent. Like they just go together. So I don't know how I'd feel about not having glasses Clark Kent.
Right, and I understand that. You know, if they took it away, I might take back what I said, because I do like that mythology that goes along with it. But anyway, I was going to mention with the glasses and Green Lantern, when I saw that and that scene where he, they have the goofy track scene, and then he's like standing was he floating like in front of everyone with his mask on?
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do these people not know that that's Hal Jordan?
Right.
But then I saw the end of Man of Steel, and it was even worse for me. I was like, that's even worse than the Green Lantern mask. But anyway.
Right. Well, I mean, if you really think about it, the people who have, like, he does, I mean, that fight scene is so fast that anybody in Metropolis, first of all, they're running for their lives. Somebody might be like videotaping it on a phone or something, but they're probably not going to get any real close-ups of him. Perry White did see Superman kissing Lois Lane at the end, so he got kind of close to him.
Yes. Not to mention the interrogation.
Sure, but a lot of those guys are
Yes.
dead now.
That is true.
And I think like General Swanwick or whatever his name is, one of the guys that lives, the guy that says that he talks to at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't think will ever. I mean, maybe
Right.
he will if Clark Kent gets sent on a story or something. But I feel like he's only going to really deal with Superman. He's never really going to meet Clark Kent.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. I'm thinking of Clark Kent almost like a celebrity, like everyone will see him and just be like, holy cow, that's the thing.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. A lot of people aren't going to come across Clark Kent. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that.
Right. So it could be maybe the Daily Planet staff knows.
Right. Who knows? That would be very interesting.
Yeah. What did you think of them not having Jimmy Olsen in the movie?
I don't really know too much about Jimmy Olsen. I know that apparently has a big role with the comic, history. So to me, it wasn't too much of a big deal.
Wasn't a big deal to me either. I like Jimmy Olsen and everything, but I'd rather them not have him in the movie than have him in there and him feel useless. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Or hey, we're putting if you put Jimmy Olsen in a Superman movie, to put Jimmy Olsen in a Superman movie, I feel like that almost takes you out of the movie because there's a character that
Doesn't
is
belong.
like, he just feels weird.
Right.
So.
I liked how kind of sci-fi the movie got when Zod had his message. And I liked that it was in English. I'm curious. My thought on this was it was broadcast in English to the English-speaking countries, and it was broadcast in other languages to the other countries.
Right.
Because at first the first time I saw it, I thought it was broadcast in English, and then it was broadcast in Spanish, and then it was broadcast in German or whatever. But I think it was actually simultaneously broadcast in all different languages, which I thought was cool. It wasn't just U.S. focused, It was a global message. Zod doesn't know where Clark is,
Right. And that's, did they go over? I'm sure they did. Yeah, they did. Never mind. The beacon in the ship was how
how Zod found him.
I thought that was really cool how they had been searching the universe for like 30 years.
Yeah.
Coming across dead planets and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's like they almost wrote themselves into a corner by saying we had all these ships that would go and try to colonize other planets, but then they did a pretty good job of saying that like their resources dried up and they eventually died. So like Krypton really is gone. Like Zod and his crew and Superman are really the last Kryptonians, unless there's Supergirl out there somewhere. So I like that. That was cool. I don't know if we want to talk like scene by scene or just kind of hit the big parts. I want to talk about the destruction of Metropolis a little bit.
Okay.
So if you don't mind jumping ahead. Is there anything you want to talk about, like, concerning them being on Zod's ship and any of that stuff? Oh, I do actually have something I want to talk about with that. I feel like there's a deleted scene that I almost wish they had left in the movie because that weird, almost shared dream sequence where Zod tells Superman the whole plan, and then Superman gets, like, you know, sucked into the quicksand of skulls, basically. Remember that whole scene?
Mm-hmm.
It felt like it felt like Superman passed out and had this dream. But
yeah,
Zod
to me, I was like, is this Harry Potter?
Right, like, how is Zod getting into his head? But then there's a quick, almost a throwaway line, where after Superman saves Lois, and he's standing with her in the cornfield, she goes, "I'm sorry, I didn't want to tell him anything about you, but they got into my head." And he goes, "It's okay, they did the same thing to me."
Okay.
So they had some weird technique where they were able to get inside their, like, brain or their thoughts or something. And that's how Zod knows that Clark is from Smallville. And that's how he goes to find the ship. Because he got that information from Amy Adams, or from Lois Lane. And so they didn't show that though, and I really kind of wish they had. And I'm wondering if they shot it and they took it out, or if it wasn't filmed.
That was another thing too, is because apparently the film was supposed to be like 2 hours and 15 minutes, I think, originally. And then like 2 or 3 weeks before it was released, it was like going to be 2 hours and 45 minutes, which I was actually happy about. And that was interesting because typically, I thought that 2:15 was probably going to be good for this movie, but I felt like it was a good time.
It was like 2:25 or something like that, wasn't it?
Was it really?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, it didn't feel long.
No.
As far as the ship goes, I can't really think of anything significant that I would bring up about that, except that, the Jor-El scene was awesome.
Yeah, where he helps Amy Adams, or Lois Lane, the actress Amy Adams. And I thought it was cool that, like their little speech, or his little speech that he tells them right before he flies out of the ship and goes to save Lois Lane. I thought that was a cool moment where he says, "You can save her, Clark. You can save all of them."
Yes. Yeah.
It was cool, but at the same time, I feel like it's not true, because that's one of the things that Superman struggles with on a probably daily basis, is that he can't be everywhere at once. He can't save all of them. And so I wonder if that's something they'll get into in the next movie or something, because it's not really addressed in this movie at all.
I don't think that's what he meant. Like physically saving them. I think what he meant is you can kind of like, I think it was a line in Superman Returns, like you can show them the way kind of thing. You can show them that you're not even a part of these guys, but you're willing to sacrifice your entire life to help them,
right?
Because they can't. But I think that he's saying you can show them to at least try as much as you can, kind of thing.
Sure. I liked it. I mean, it's a good scene. Don't get me wrong. Definitely gave me chills.
Did you say you didn't like it? I don't remember you saying.
No. And then that leads right into pretty much the destruction of Smallville, which actually was an action sequence that I really, really enjoyed. However, there's one little nitpicky thing I don't like about it, and I understand that Superman was really not the Superman that we all know and love yet in this movie. This is like really the first time he's ever done any kind of superheroic acts in public, if you will. Because most of the time he's saving people, he's kind of doing it secretively. And then he moves on. Nobody can find him again or anything. So the only thing I didn't like about the Smallville scene was there's a moment where he gets up and he starts walking down the street, and there's like a human being walks in front of him. And it almost kind of brings him out of his focus, and he realizes, oh yeah, there's people here. And all he does is he says, "Go inside, it's not safe." And I thought that was a little uncharacteristic of Superman, Normally he's very aware of the weak humans that are nearby in terms of destruction. And you could say the same thing for Metropolis as well, with the amount of destruction in Metropolis, but we'll get there. But other than that, I thought the Smallville sequence, the action sequence, was awesome. him fighting Feora, who we haven't really talked about.
Oh yeah, that was. I was trying to think about it. Yeah, that was that scene where you really saw for the first time how fast these guys were going to be fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Compared especially to the people that were like, well, it's Zack Snyder. It's going to be slow motion.
Mm-hmm.
Which, and bringing that up, I remember you mentioning that you were worried about that. And, I mean, Zack Snyder's slow motion doesn't bother me that much. I didn't see Sucker Punch. The only slow motion I really remember him using to where it was noticeable was in 300.
He did a lot in Watchmen too.
See, I don't remember it like taking me out of the I don't remember.
It didn't necessarily take me out of the movie. I just didn't. I thought it worked well in 300. I thought it worked well in Watchmen.
Mm-hmm.
Sucker Punch visually is really nice, but the story is a little weak. I just wasn't sure how it would work in a Superman movie.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But that's because the only Superman movies I could really, have the only movies that are in my mind are the Richard Donner universe, and I don't think that type of slow motion would work in the Richard Donner universe. But this is a darker Superman. I was just worried that maybe he was going to make Superman a little too dark as well. He's only made these dark movies that I was worried for the tone.
Well,
it
wasn't so much. Well, I guess you're right. He did make dark movies, but the thing too was you had Christopher Nolan coming off of the Dark Knights, or the Dark Knight series, and even though he and it actually turns out that he wasn't near as involved as I think everyone was expecting him to be. I don't even think he stepped foot on set once. Maybe he did at the very beginning, but
he wasn't there much of the time. I think you're right. There's a picture. I've seen a picture of him on set talking to Zack Snyder, so at least he was there one day. But who knows when that was. So I think he really did. He probably had a hand in getting the film off the ground.
Right.
And he obviously had a hand in the story. He's got a story credit. But I think he said from the get-go that this is really Zack Snyder's movie.
Right.
It's his baby. So you're right. There was it didn't feel necessarily like a Nolan movie to me.
Me neither.
So, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Christopher Nolan did really well with the Batman movies, and it'd have been interesting to see what a Christopher Nolan Superman movie would have looked like. But I really liked this Superman movie we got with Zack Snyder. So
yeah, and it was good.
It was good.
So and Watchmen, I enjoyed the heck out of Watchmen. And
I did too.
A lot of people didn't, and I think most of the people, and this is just an assumption, I think most of the people that didn't like it probably didn't read the graphic novel.
That could be.
Because...
Or it's the other end of the spectrum where you've got these fanboys who are so in love with the comic that they didn't like
that's true,
because
they did change the ending
right.
a lot, when you look at what the message was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not, but I don't know.
We'll save that for our Watchmen episode.
Exactly. We're talking about Man of Steel, so let's go away. Zack Snyder connection there.
Sure. I guess we can go ahead and talk about the destruction of Metropolis. There's a few questions. I have some notes about some questions about the movie in general that we can get to maybe near the end. The destruction of Metropolis. I've heard that it offended some people. It's very 9/11 esque. I don't know how else you could say that, or maybe it just reminded people of that. And I understand that. I get that with the buildings crumbling and the people with they have the dust on on debris kind of on them, on their clothes and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to say, and maybe it's just because I have no heart, or maybe it's because I don't live in New York. I mean, I'm assuming it probably hit New Yorkers more than anybody. But I actually didn't think about 9/11 when I saw the movie.
No, me neither.
I got it once people brought it up later, but I
actually hadn't even heard that until you just brought it up. Honestly.
Oh, really? Yeah. I've heard it from a few different sources. And a lot of people, like I said, were kind of offended by it and thought it was ridiculous. And then a lot of Superman fans are offended because Superman is basically not trying to protect all these thousands of people, millions of people, however many people are in these buildings that are falling and crushing and dying.
That's right. Superman wasn't doing anything, was he? The point is that Zod is not going to go fly off in a field when he's doing this. He's telling Superman, I'm going to kill all these people.
Right.
Zod's going to keep Superman in there anyway and do as much damage as possible. So I don't think Superman really had a choice of, I'm going to go take Zod off into the middle of the ocean where no one is. The battle was pretty much there, and Zod was deciding that.
Mm-hmm. I jokingly like to think that all of Metropolis was on vacation, except for maybe the Daily Planet workers and the police. And so all those buildings were actually empty. There's a moment where Zod and Superman actually fly into a building, and it's empty. There's nobody on that floor.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to think that all those buildings were empty. They didn't really have an evacuation scene. There was a scene where Perry White tells everybody at the Daily Planet, he's like, okay, we're leaving, let's go. And they're on the street, and there's other people on the street, but there's no real evacuation scene.
I guess was there one in Smallville? Or did they just go? I guess they just went in the buildings.
Yeah, they just ran into buildings too. And people said that probably a lot of people died in Smallville too. The destruction in Metropolis, though, is so great. There's two things. One, while I was watching the movie, the thing that I actually thought of was this might be the closest we'll ever get to seeing the Doomsday Superman fight, because that's what it reminded me of.
Mm-hmm.
Him being thrown through all these buildings and everything, and building glass shattering and all that stuff.
Yeah, and after the reaction that they've had, I doubt they're going to do that one again. They'll probably tone it down next time.
Probably. And that's the other question I have is they went so big this time that what are they going to do in the sequel?
Yeah.
But
that's when I was watching that, that's exactly what I was thinking was, this is about as destructive as you can get right here. I mean, next would just be cracking the earth.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you're wiping down this entire city.
Right.
And it's reminiscent of what we've seen in Transformers and everything. And I remember watching the Iron Man 3 trailer, seeing that for the first time, and just seeing all the destruction, where his house was crumbling and everything. And I remember thinking, it looks cool. I love the way it looks, but I'm also really sick of seeing this because it's expected now.
Yeah.
It's like we've seen this, we've seen it, and why do they keep doing it? But seeing it in Man of Steel actually didn't bring that up. I just enjoyed the battle itself. I thought it was awesome. When he's going through the buildings and he goes through 7 of them.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, he's gonna go through 2, and then he hits the 3rd one. You're like, oh man, he went really far, and then it just keeps going.
Yeah.
You're like, wow, that's power.
It was relentless, I guess you could say. I mean, I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of people that think it went on too long. I thought it was great. But maybe whatever.
Now, I've heard watching it a second time, I think it's noticeable, and you might even brought this up, that it's noticeable, a little more noticeable that the scene was longer. But since I've only seen it once, I remember I didn't feel like that it was long at all. I didn't feel like the movie was long. It felt like I enjoyed the pacing of it pretty well.
Sure, and obviously I did too. I've seen it 4 times, so I obviously didn't have too many problems with it if I went to go see it that many more times. One of the things I want to talk about in that scene is Zod takes control of that scout ship that was in the Arctic, which was essentially the Fortress of Solitude, right? Superman crashes that ship, and then did that ship get sucked into the black hole? Because that's my wonder, or that's my question: is the Fortress of Solitude gone? Does he not have that anymore? The other question I have is, Dr. Emil Hamilton is in at least as far as I know, a huge character in the Superman comics. He was in Smallville for a lot of seasons. And I
honestly don't know who he is. But I've heard that he's pretty big. He kind of helps Superman out with finding information and stuff.
Yeah, he's kind of the resident scientist,
Right.
I've seen him do things like test out Superman's powers. If Superman kind of comes across something that he, like an object or something that he doesn't know what it is or something like that, he'll give it to him, Dr. Hamilton, and he'll figure it out. I've seen him, I want to say he was in Lois and Clark. He was I think he was on Star Labs or whatever, and Lois and Clark would go talk to him every now and again. But, So anyway, pretty big character. I thought he'd be around for the next movie, but I think the second or third time I saw it, I realized that he gets sucked into the black hole as well. At the end, like, I guess they recreated the Phantom Zone and he gets sucked in.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the thing that gets sucked in is the command key, so Jor-El's gone. He can't be in the sequel.
Was the black hole a portal to the Phantom Zone?
I think so. It might have just been a black hole. Maybe they got shot to the other end of space or something, but I thought it was I thought they said that they recreated the Phantom Zone.
I'm trying to remember how the Phantom Zone got created in the first place and what it was. It was kind of like a ship, wasn't it? That
it's another dimension, I think.
Yeah, I know that, but I'm saying like the portal was wasn't it like something that was there was some kind of
floating above Krypton, and then it like as you got closer, it kind of expanded into this triangular doorway.
Right.
That the ship goes into, and then it closes
That's what I was
up
thinking.
afterwards. Yeah, so it is like they built like this doorway that can.
But it wasn't the ship itself.
No.
Okay.
They just put him in the biggest ship they could find to put him in the Phantom Zone for some reason. I don't know why they did that, but whatever.
And why weren't they thinking when this? Well, I guess it was the council. Did the council arrest him, or was it?
Yes.
Okay.
It was like right after Jor-El, after Zod murders Jor-El, they arrest him,
right?
Send him off to the Phantom Zone.
Unlucky for them, they didn't believe Jor-El, and
then they all died.
The planet got destroyed, which also destroyed the thing that was keeping the Phantom Zone intact. Right. So there goes Zod.
They were really only in the Phantom. Although I guess it really doesn't say how long the time between the sending them into the Phantom Zone and the destruction of Krypton is, but it made it seem like it was pretty soon. So were they in the Phantom Zone for like all of 30 seconds before they got?
That was my interpretation. I mean, not 30 seconds, but probably a couple weeks. That was actually.
So they weren't in there for very long. The other question I have is Michael Shannon noticeably ages between when he's arrested and when he finds Clark on Earth. He's got the goatee with the gray in it. He looks a little older. Faora, though, exactly the same. But I'm assuming she's aged, right? Maybe they age slower, but they're Kryptonians. 30 years might not be that much for them, but she looks exactly the same. She's got a little bit different haircut, but that's about it.
Right. I mean, maybe they tried to make her look older, and it just didn't come across on
I mean, I didn't care that much, but I was just wondering about it.
Right. Honestly, yeah, I didn't even think about that watching the movie. I remember seeing he had white in some of his figures and some not, but I honestly didn't even notice in the movie.
Right. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned this earlier, there's a Christopher Reeve Easter egg in there? You said somebody was dressed up as Christopher Reeve, as Clark Kent, I guess?
Right, there was a set picture taken where, you didn't know if it was Christopher Reeve, but you would assume it was because he was wearing glasses, the hat, the coat, and he was carrying a bag.
Well, it's obviously not Christopher Reeve, he's dead, but it was a Christopher Reeve, like, look-alike?
Right. Well, you couldn't see up close. It was a very distant picture.
Oh, okay. It was a set picture.
It was a set picture, and Henry Cavill was on his bike
for the end scene.
Right.
Scene? Okay.
And you saw him pedaling, and this guy in the suit, and there's a bunch of extras in the background, but he's like walking to a crosswalk, and then he looks left and sees Clark coming, and like stops and waits for him. And I can't remember if Clark looks at him or whatnot, but anyway, it was very interesting to see that there was a guy obviously dressed like the Christopher Reeve Clark Kent, and you'd figure they did that for a reason. And since it wasn't the movie, I figured maybe they did it for like a photo for the family or something. I don't know.
Interesting. I would be curious to know if they actually filmed that, because that scene is shot with such close-ups, and there's such a small depth of field, like that you would have never seen him in the movie. But I wonder if
I wasn't even looking for it because I was just enjoying the movie. Either. So
the Christopher Reeve cameo that I know of is when he's fighting that giant. Oh, we haven't even talked about the tentacle monster thing. But when he's fighting that thing over the Indian Ocean, and he's like, building up the power to like fly upwards into it. He looks up, like there's whatever that light beam thing is going on to his face, and he like looks up, And for a split second, it looks like they may have CGI'd his face to look like Christopher Reeve, just for a split second.
Huh.
I was told about it before I saw the movie, like the third time, and I kept an eye out for it, and when it's just a flash. And so it's one of those things where you go, I think I did see it, but you're not really sure. If you Google it, I'm sure you could, because I think somebody's gone out there and found like a screen image of it or something, taking a little thing. And so it's hard to tell. Did they do it? Did they not do it? I don't know. But it really, for that split second, you kind of do see a flash of Christopher Reeve's face. And that could just be Henry Cavill maybe looks a little like him. But it's interesting.
Yeah.
What did you think about that tentacle monster thing?
I don't really have an opinion about it because I vaguely remember it, honestly.
I'm not a huge fan of that scene. It just kind of...
I do remember feeling, when I saw the tentacles, it felt a little bit Green Lantern-ish to me.
Right. It's a little... I don't know. I don't like seeing Superman fight, like, robots or something, Like, it's just... doesn't really do it for me. So it kind of just slows them down a bit. I guess it's supposed to add tension because they're on their way to drop the ship onto that other ship, creating it like opening up the black hole, and they can't do it unless that world engine is stopped. Mm-hmm. So it's providing a little bit of conflict for him to stop that world engine. But the other thing I don't really like about the scene is, he loses his powers when he's in Krypton's atmosphere, like he was on Zod's ship.
Right.
And so Lois Lane asks him at one point, like, if that thing is making Earth more like Krypton, isn't going to make you weaker near it? And he's like, well, we'll see. And he, like, coughs and stuff a little bit when he's around it. But then he, like, wills the strength to destroy it. And I don't buy it. Because if it's making it more like Krypton and he's losing his powers, he can't just will those powers back.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
And in my opinion, it's more unbelievable than at the end of Superman Returns when he lifts the new Krypton, whatever you want to call that, slab of Earth, and the kryptonite is coming out. Like, kryptonite doesn't necessarily take away his powers as far as I know. It just hurts him a lot.
I think there's been two interpretations of that, two different, and I think they've used, I could be wrong, but I think I've seen, because I know what you're talking about, but I think I've also seen occasions where,
it does take away his powers?
It does appear that it's taking away his powers more than just he can't control use his powers because he's not strong enough.
Right. There's also like 7 different kryptonites. There's like blue, there's red, there's green, there's also like white. I think there's black kryptonite. So I'm not really, maybe you're right, I could be wrong. But I thought it was more believable that he was just overcoming the pain to lift that thing into space than it was that he could just will his powers back to destroy the world engine. Still a fun scene. It's a forgivable sin, if you will. I can still enjoy the movie. I like it. It's cool. I'll watch it when it comes out on DVD probably 20 times in a row.
Yeah, I wanted to say the world generator, the sound that thing made was just perfect.
Yeah, the sound design was cool in that movie, and the music.
And they used that for it was the world generator made that sound, but in the 4th trailer, which was kind of, Zod's trailer, have you watched that one?
I have. The one where it starts off with his message. You are not alone message, yeah.
And they kind of used that sound effect of the world generator as music in that trailer, and it was just like creepy. So
that was a good trailer. Did you watch the Nokia trailer, the one that came out after that? There's I guess you could consider it the 5th trailer, but it was sponsored by Nokia.
I don't think so, because I think after the 4th one I stopped pretty much watching stuff.
That's smart, because this one, I love the trailer now that I've seen the movie, but I'm really glad. I'm glad I didn't see any of the trailers, but I'm really glad I didn't see this one because it's pretty much, there's not a lot of dialogue in it, but it shows you like all the action.
Mm-hmm. I actually wasn't going to watch the 4th trailer, but I was kind of tricked into watching it. I think I can't remember, but
it surprised me because I went to go see The Hangover 3 and it played in front of that, And I was like, I'm pretty sure this is a Superman trailer because it showed the Warner Brothers logo and then Legendary, DC, and Syncope. And then it was like all that static, and I was like, what is this trailer? And then I think I heard just a little bit of Michael Shannon's voice, and I was like, this is a Superman trailer. And I had to shut my eyes. I heard the whole thing again, but...
So what did you think of the third trailer? Because I stand by that. When I saw that trailer, and we had no idea what the movie was going to be like. It hadn't been out yet. And to see that compared to, I think it was the second trailer, and it was just the music. That was the first time you heard the music.
Mm-hmm.
And
music
God, that music, that scene gave me goosebumps.
Yeah.
I had never felt so, I don't think I'd ever felt so excited about an actual movie's content than seeing that trailer.
It didn't give me goosebumps just because I had already seen the movie.
Yeah, I get that.
If I hadn't seen the movie yet, it would have given me goosebumps. I'm glad. I think I could have seen trailer number 2 before seeing the movie because that one didn't give a whole lot away. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of stuff in trailer 3 that I'm glad I didn't see before I saw the movie.
Like what?
Well, one of the things was after the world engine is destroyed and they fly their plane into Zod's ship and it creates the black hole and everything gets sucked into it. I remember thinking in the theater, there's no fight scene between Zod and Superman? I was like, that's kind of lame. And then you see Zod in the rubble and he gives that great speech about how everything I do is for the good of Krypton and you've taken that from me.
And I want to bring up something here in a minute about that. Go ahead though.
But anyway, I was going to say I think they show some glimpse or some quick shots of that fight scene, that last fight scene between Zod and Superman in trailer 3. And if I had seen the trailer, I would have known that was coming. Because as it worked out, I thought Zod got sucked into that black hole.
I got you.
And I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. And then he shows up and I was like, yes! I just got really excited about it. So it really worked out.
Did you throw your hands up in the air like that too, getting people's way?
Probably. It's probably why I got that Coke thrown at me.
But, talking about Zod's speech, and he's like, and I've heard Michael Shannon actually address this. He said, Zod's not a bad guy. It's just, he appears bad because he's not on your side, but that doesn't make him a bad guy. What do you think about that? Do you think Zod was bad, or do you think he was considered a guy? I've actually heard him described as a villain that you could root for. What do you think about that?
Well, I think he's definitely not a good guy because he does start leveling Metropolis and doesn't care about human beings. But I do like that in this version he was genetically engineered to be who he was. And that's really what drove him. It was like, we have to rebuild Krypton. I don't care who's going to stand in my way. This is what I was born to do. I really liked that aspect of it, and I thought it was really well done. And I thought Michael Shannon was amazing.
Oh God, yeah, he was great. I consider Zod bad.
Sure,
but yeah, you're right. He was genetically engineered. So then you were faced with the question: are you bad if you were created and can't help? That's philosophical stuff. Well, anyway.
And I think that's part of what Jor-El was kind of fighting for in the beginning. Is he's like, Kal-El was the first natural birth that they had. He was like, we can start over and fix the mistakes we've made in the past. This whole genetically engineering thing doesn't really work.
Oh, I thought you were going to say that there was philosophical stuff in this movie, and there was.
Sure.
But yeah, I know what you're saying too. So
yeah, that's I think that's about it in terms of Man of Steel. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
We could talk about this forever, but
we've hit a lot of good points though.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So I'm sure we'll do another one sometime. That's my guess. But
we could do a Man of Steel revisit when it comes out on DVD.
That
Blu-ray.
sounds like a plan. Maybe we can get a guest on here or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool. Maybe somebody who doesn't like the movie. We could argue with them. Alright, well, I guess that wraps it up for episode 1 of Superheroes Movies and Superhero Movies. I'm Justin.
I'm John.
And thanks for listening.